morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Al with Everything According to Al, and I am back with you with a video in regards to my top 10 favorite pickups of 2024. Last year was a bit of a tumultuous yet adventurous year. Nonetheless, I made it through. There'll be some videos in regards to that coming soon. But yeah, this particular video is going to be my favorite top 10 pickups of 2024. As I mentioned, the books will actually be all over the place, and they are a combination of gifted books that were gifted to me via an E.A.T.A, which is an act of kindness, or I purchased the books outright myself, either at a local comic shop or a convention that I went to last year, Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, I do hope that you subscribe to my channel for more future content, that you like the video and then share it with someone that you might think that they'd be interested in this kind of stuff. But without further ado, here we go with the first book. Now, these are not in a particular order except for the last one. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. First book in question is called Up from Harlem. Now, this book has no significance in terms of keys or anything of that nature. This was a book that I was actually introduced to by a gentleman that is a panelist on the other channel that I'm on, the Comic Hall Crew. His name is Rico. His IG handle is Black Key Comics, and he's essentially a historian in terms of Black comics, in terms of Black history, and Black history in terms of our contributions to the comic book industry. So shout out to Rico. He actually brought this up in a video, a live stream that we did last year for Black History, and I figured I would go ahead and pick it up. Actually, I didn't pick it up. Let me rephrase that. This was gifted to me by a gentleman by the name of Jimmy. He follows us on the Comic Hall Crew, and I don't know Jimmy's name. I'm sorry, but shout out to Jimmy. You know who you are. He actually gifted this to me while we were at Heroes Con. So yeah, basically the book is about a gentleman by the name of Tom Skinner. He grew up in the inner cities of New York, and it's essentially an autobiography where he actually went from being a gang member and a hooligan and all kinds of stuff, getting some devilment, as they say in the South, to redeeming himself by becoming a pastor and turning his life around and helping the community. So this was one of the books again that Rico actually showcased in terms of his collection. So oddly enough, Jimmy just happened to give me the book along with a few other books, and I don't know if this was like on purpose or if it was just something he wanted to do randomly, but needless to say, thank you for the book, Jimmy. I really appreciate it. Next book is going to be Spoof number 4. Marvel has always been in the frame of mind of trying to get their hands in everything, and this was no exception. Spoof, basically, it was kind of similar to Mad Magazine if you're not familiar with the actual title. This one basically again has no significance in it except for the fact that I'm a huge blaxploitation fan, movie buff, and this particular book actually showcases Blackula. Blackula was a blaxploitation series that actually had 2 movies, Blackula and Scream Blackula Scream. So because I am a fan of blaxploitation movies and because Blackula was spoofed in a Marvel comic, I figured I'd pick it up. So that is the story behind it. Again, it has no significance aside from the fact that my man Blackula is about to tear into some flesh. So next book is going to be Bitter Root. This is the Juneteenth variant that came out a few years back, Bitter Root number 14, volume 1. I wanted this book, and I actually have a copy, but the copy got beat up a little bit. So I was given this book by a gentleman in the Instagram comic family by the name of Carolina Chris. He lives, of course, in Carolina, and he actually, I saw him one, I think it was a Saturday of the convention, and we got to talking, and I told him that the creators of the book, Chuck Brown and Sanford Green, they were at the con, so he happened to be there to get their signatures as well. One of the books that I wanted to get done, which I'm going to do a video on this, was a Purple Rain homage variant. And at that time, I did not have the book. I left it at the Airbnb that we were staying at. So he gave me this book. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to get it signed because there was so much going on, so much excitement and calamity. Not necessarily calamity, but there was a lot of stuff going on at the convention. So didn't have an opportunity to either meet Chuck Brown. I did see Sanford Green in passing, and I told him that Bitterroot was dope. And he said, "Thank you, man. I appreciate it." So yeah, hopefully if I attend Heroes Con this year, it's in June of this year. I think Sanford Green is going to be there, and Chuck might be there as well. So if I do end up going, I'm going to take this book and get it signed and probably get it slabbed through CGC. All right, next book is a big boy book. This book was actually given to me by a gentleman by the name of Steve Whiting. If that name sounds familiar, I showcased him in my first video on the channel. He actually got my X-Men #4 cleaned and graded for me. Guy's a really good guy, very generous person. And he's basically been working with me to get me complete in terms of my Volume 1 X-Men run, Uncanny X-Men. Currently, I am short 6 issues to complete that run. Giant Size X-Men is included in that. And that's from issue 1 to issue 544, which is the first volume of the series. So again, I'm missing 6 books out of this particular series. And Steve has been very instrumental with helping me get these books. So this is X-Men #9. This is the first time that the Avengers actually met with the X-Men. I haven't actually opened the book to read it at all because, you know, it's X-Men #9. But yeah, it is one of those books that's been highly sought after. And I also have a video in terms of X-Men stuff as we progress, or as I progress with the channel. But yeah, he actually got this for me. He went to a con. He lives in Florida. He got this for me at a con down there. And from what he said, it was highway robbery, and the book didn't cost that much. So yeah, I'm thankful to have this in my collection. And thanks to Steve for getting this for me. There is another book in this pile that he actually gave me, but it's further down in the pile itself. So the next book I'm going to show is Astonishing Tales, featuring Deathlock the Demolisher. This is Astonishing Tales #25. I bought this book at Heroes Con last year. It's the first appearance of Luther Manning, aka Deathlock. He's a cyborg. I want to get into collecting a lot of the 70s books, the Deathlocks, Power Man, Iron Fist, other books, finish up like my Savage She-Hulk run. So my goal is starting to shift since I'm close to completing my collection for the Uncanny X-Men Volume 1 series. So Deathlock is one of those characters that I want to start picking up. So eventually I want to pick up his series that ran in the 70s. So if I can find a better copy, because this copy is in good condition, but it's not in the best of shape. But if I can find a better copy of this, I will probably get this sent to CGC, which, if you don't know, is a company that basically grades comic books. They review them to determine the condition, and they grade them on a scale of like 0.5 to 10. So if I can find a better copy of this, I'll more than likely get that slab, keep this as a reader, and just collect the series as I go. So next book. This is a book that I have long sought after, being that I am a fan of the mutants and the X-Men and Marvel Comics. This is Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends #1. This book itself, it is basically a key issue. Key issue, if you don't know, means that there are certain things that might happen in a comic book that might be significant enough to list it or to label it as a key. In this book, it was the first appearance of Firestar, Angelica Jones, if I'm not mistaken, that is her name. She had only appeared in the cartoon Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. This actually came out after Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the cartoon, was released. So this is her first appearance in a comic book. This has actually happened before, mainly with Harley Quinn. If you're familiar with Batman, the Joker, Harley Quinn actually appeared in Batman the Animated Series before she actually appeared in a comic book. So it is one of those things that kind of like puts a little bit more importance on the book. Being, of course, I'm an X-Men fan. I'm a fan of mutants. And one of my goals is to try to collect any mutant book or mutant first appearance that wasn't actually that didn't occur in the Uncanny X-Men run, like Silver Samurai, Sabretooth, Mystique, etc. So this is a good grade book. If I can find a better copy, then of course I will get that copy slab. This was a one shot, so there was no series behind this. It was just one issue and that was it. But yeah, I'm glad to have this in the collection. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends #1. Next book was a book that I actually bought back in November or December last year. Shout out to our comic book store here in Macon, which is Fanboy Comics. They actually had this book and it was on sale. And with this particular book, I always wanted the first appearance of Luke Cage, but you know, when the TV show came out a few years ago, that kind of took that off the table. So I found it for a really good price. It was under $150 for Luke Cage's first appearance. Now this goes without saying, as I said with them, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and The Bitter Root. If I find a better copy, I'll probably send that copy off to CGC and get it graded. I do plan on completing the run of Luke Cage Hero for Hire. If I'm not mistaken, it went maybe 19 to 20 issues, and then they teamed up Power Man, aka Luke Cage, with Iron Fist, Danny Rand. So I'll more than likely complete that run, or look to complete that run for both Power Man and Iron Fist, as well as Luke Cage Hero for Hire. But again, this is just a sought after book that I've always wanted, considering that I do collect Black superhero books on the side as well, thanks to Rico. So yeah, this was a great pickup, and for the price I paid for it, I'm very satisfied. Next book. This is the other book. This is another Big Daddy book. This book was actually given to me, or A.O.K. to me, but again by Steve Whiting. Thank you so much, sir. This is X-Men, Uncanny X-Men #6. And this particular book here, of course, if I'm not mistaken, was the first meeting between the Submariner, Prince Namor, and the X-Men. For those that don't know, Submariner is considered canonically as the first mutant in Marvel, since he's one of the oldest mutants, because Submariner has his origins, I think, in the either late 30s or early 40s, around World War II. Him, Captain America, and the original Human Torch, Jim Hammond. So yeah, this one is one that I needed for sure for my collection to complete that run of Uncanny X-Men. Within the first 10 issues of that book, I think I owned 7 or 8 of the books between issue 1 through 10. Don't have issue 1, of course. That's going to be the last one that I get, as that's the big daddy of them all in terms of the, you know, significance and price. But yeah, I'm glad to have this book. This book is a funny story behind it. Steve bought this book at Heroes Con last year, and one of my buddies, shout out to Larry Crocker, LCrocker81 on Instagram, he actually found me at the con and he just handed me the book and said, "Here, Steve wants you to have this." I looked at the book and I pretty much had those cartoon eyes where they pop out your head, like whoa. So he just gave me that book, you know, on a whim. So thanks again, Steve. I really appreciate your generosity, man, and your friendship. You've been very helpful in me completing my X-Men run. So next book. This was also another book that I wanted to pick up for quite some time. This book is Lobo. It's a Dell comic book from back in 1965, if I'm not mistaken. The titular character is Lobo. He is a black cowboy, and they did exist back in the day. But he's very educated. He has his own homestead, his ranch, and he's basically fighting some evil people that want to do harm to him and his family. So that's a brief synopsis. I haven't read the book. I haven't opened it up. These books are hard to find, and this book was actually purchased by myself at Heroes Con last year, and I paid a pretty good price for it. Shout out to my homie Matthew Odom. He's also on the Comic Hall crew. He also has a channel called Southern Gooner. He's a big soccer fan, so look both of those up if you can. He has a knack for looking and locating books. I think it's a mutant ability of his. So he actually found 4 of these at Heroes Con. And even though I said that the book is hard to find, you don't really see these books in comic book stores and in smaller conventions. The larger conventions like Heroes Con is where you really see the rubber hit the road with a lot of vendors. They're selling some really good rare books and top quality books. So yeah, this particular book also actually predated Black Panther, if I'm not mistaken, and please forgive me if I'm wrong. Lobo is considered the first black character to have a comic book as far as him being the main character. Black Panther came along, I think, a couple of years later, and he became the first black superhero, black male superhero, to grace, well, actually black superhero period, in a major, like between DC and Marvel, to headline or to be a main character in a book. He appeared in a Fantastic Four book. So, but yeah, this was a good book right here. Now this one, I'm looking to possibly get it pressed and cleaned. It makes it look a little better for presentation, and getting it sent off to CGC for them to actually slab this one. There's a number 2, and number 2 typically is a little bit more expensive because the print run of the book itself is kind of lower than this one. But needless to say, it is in my collection, and I am glad that I have it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the last book up under here. Now, the book that I'm going to show is essentially a book that I bought also from Heroes Con. I'm trying to straighten this up to make it look even. So the book that I actually purchased, the last book that I'm going to show, was in fact a book that I wasn't looking for. I actually went to Heroes Con looking for Giant Size X-Men. The prices for Giant Size X-Men were not there where I wanted them to be. So I opted to get this book since it was a book that I needed in my collection for my X-Men run. Now this book is actually within the first 10 issues. And when I purchased the book, I actually got the Lobo from the same vendor. The guy looks like Bill Goldberg. But he actually cut me a deal on Lobo, as well as this book that I'm about to show. And he gave me, as an incentive, he gave me a free book, which is, I think, X-Men 59, which was a book that I also needed in my collection. In addition to that, he actually marked this book down by $400. So without further ado, the book that I'm going to show, one of my favorites that I picked up, X-Men number 4, circa 1964, I think. And of course, if you're familiar with the X-Men, you know who most of these people are. Of course, Magneto's in the center. To his right is his offspring, Quicksilver, and Scarlet Witch in her green regalia. On the left to him is Mortimer Toynbee, which is the Toad. And right behind him is Jason Wingard, which is called Mastermind. That's his code name. So yeah, this was a book that in lieu of not getting, and please forgive me because I use a lot. I do have a pretty diverse vocabulary, but for some reason I can't escape the ums. But anyway, this book was one of the books that I needed for my collection, and because I didn't get the Giant Size X-Men, I'm sorry, my mind went blank, I went ahead and rolled with this one. Like I said, the first appearance of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, if I'm not mistaken, Toad and Mastermind as well. And I think this may be the second or third appearance of Magneto, maybe fourth, I'm not sure. But yeah, he gave me a really good deal for that. And like I said, I bought the Lobo and I got the X-Men 59 for free. So that pretty much sums it up. This is my top 10 of my favorite books that I picked up in 2024. I hope to have one of these videos going into next year. There's a couple of cons that we might be going to. Don't know for sure if I'm headed to Heroes Con this year. Hopefully we'll be able to go. But in any event, yeah, this is pretty much it for this video. If you like this video, again, please subscribe to my channel if this is your bag. Share it and like the video itself. I will be churning out some more videos, video game stuff, some more comic book stuff, and I'll probably be doing a few videos of me going thrifting, because I do thrift shop. I'm not ashamed to say it. So with that being said, I will bid you all adieu. Good night, good morning, good evening. I will be back again someday like Frosty the Snowman with a new video. And so with that being said, just stay tuned. This is Al with Everything According to Al. Thank you so much, and you take care. Peace.